Now, helping us escape extinction and reshape your business DNA for an AI-driven future, we've got Ethan Farlow. He's ComTech's COO and a master of turning everyday technology into high-powered survival tools. His sessions focus on how to leverage AI, Microsoft 365, and emerging tools like Bitcoin to improve productivity and support smarter business decisions. Now, when he's not helping teams avoid extinction-level inefficiencies, Ethan enjoys hiking with his wife and their 2 dogs. Who let the dogs out? Oof. Spending quality time with his son, Noah, as well as being active in his church. Let's go ahead and give a warm welcome to Ethan Farlow.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I spent a lot of time with a lot of you at the bar last night. It was very good. Very good. Early morning, though. All right, so we're going to talk about AI today. I know that is a little bit of a mouthful. We're talking about reshaping your business DNA. It seems a little bit dramatic, but I actually believe this is what is coming. This is what is here. We don't want this for your business. We don't want to become a dinosaur and become extinct. Now, I know we're not going to go extinct next week. If you don't have an AI strategy right now, it's not like your business is going to be completely disrupted next week, but we need to be thinking about it. So you just heard Mike on stage here, and when I think about going extinct, or I saw the example with Uber and robo-taxis, Mike said this at our event last year. AI is not going to put you out of business, but it is certainly, if a business is using it, they will put you out of business. He gave that example of coming in at 1/10 of the cost. That's if we had a competitor come into our market at 1/10 of the cost, it would be very, very difficult. Now, when I think about where AI is going or what I pay attention to, I try to look for trends. Some of the big places that I look is for the people that have a lot of money. The companies that have a lot of money that can make 10 or 15-year investments. One of them, of course, is Google. Some of the other ones are Microsoft and such. When I looked at them this year, Google is putting $85 billion in AI alone this year. Microsoft is going to do $100 billion. Amazon's going to do $100 billion as well. And then Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram and such, they're going to do $100 billion as well. So these very large companies are investing a lot of money. Now, I pay attention to that because, again, I see that they're large companies. They can make large bets that are many years out. Now, I wanted to throw an interesting stat up here for you guys. Nowadays, I don't know if anybody watches the news, but when I was growing up, we threw the words hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars around. Now we're throwing billions and trillions. So when I throw up on the slide that they're investing $100 billion, I don't know, I think we're getting kind of immune to it. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's $100 billion. To put that into perspective, the country of Costa Rica or Croatia or Panama or Serbia, all of these countries, the entire gross domestic product of those countries is only about $100 billion. I say only. That's a lot. It's a tremendous amount. These large companies that are inside the US, they're all investing that amount. So it is, just to put that into perspective, it is a tremendous amount. Another interesting stat for you is what we're seeing is they are investing in people that know how to use these tools. We're seeing salaries right now for a good AI engineer of about $300,000. That's starting. They're going up. We've seen offers as high as what you're seeing there on the screen. And that is not a misprint. It's $100 million. I feel like it's kind of like Revenge of the Nerds. All the LeBron James and Tiger Woods, they get paid this crazy amount of money. Now computer geeks are getting paid $100 million. It is pretty powerful. So I want to do a quick poll. I want to ask you guys, I want you to keep your hand raised if these things are true. So raise your hand if you have ever used any of these tools. Okay, the vast majority of the room. All right, you use them 3 times a week. Okay, a couple hands went down. Use them every day during the week. All right, multiple times a day. couple are going down, even on the weekends. Okay, so thank you for that. So there were still a number of hands that were up the entire time. And every time I asked that question, more and more people are keeping their hands raised. So that just gave me a poll of the room so I know how to twist and turn this talk a little bit more. So I'm going to refer to this podcast a couple of times during this presentation. Because go on YouTube, this is the thumbnail that you want to look for. It's a gentleman by the name of Jeff Woods. Now, he wrote this book. Again, I don't get anything from this book, but I have read this a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to pull a number of things from it, but one of the examples that he gave with this, when he was talking about AI, is I want you to imagine all of us, we may have to go back a little ways, but if you remember in college or in high school, what is a teacher? I want you to put it in your mind. What is a teacher that really taught you a lot? I mean, they taught you a ton. When I think about that, typically, I think of somebody who may have a lot of diplomas, maybe they don't, but they probably have read a tremendous amount of books. That's what I think about when I think of someone who taught me a lot. That maybe read 100 books every year for the last 30 or 40 years. You know, that's 3,000 or 4,000 books. It's a lot. When you think about AI, I want you to consider these. You want to change your mind to say, maybe this AI tool is like a master teacher. Because these AI tools, some of them have been trained on not a couple thousand books, but a couple 100 million books. And the interesting thing about that is these AI tools can recall every bit of that information in 3 seconds. So I want you to think about that, because if we go back, if we stay on this teacher example, imagine if you had a teacher in your business that all your employees could talk to, that had read hundreds of millions of books, that could recall anything in 3 seconds, and, which is very beneficial to me, and they could dumb down the examples. So I ask AI all the time questions, and I'm like, you're giving me a response and it's too high level. I need you to make it simpler. I need you to constantly make it simpler. So these AI tools can summarize things based on what level you're at. So if you had a teacher like that, wouldn't you want all of your employees constantly talking to that person? I know personally I would. Now, I know there's probably some administrators in the room. There's some IT administrators that are saying, Ethan, I've used some of these AI tools. You're talking like it's this great teacher. AI can be very devious. It can straight lie to you. Has anyone in here asked it a question and it's garbage? Okay, so it happens to us. Now, we will cover that. So we will cover that here at the end, because we don't want to just put anything into AI and then just take it as it is. Now, last year, I know a number of you were here. I gave a talk on the top tools for business success. Now, I'm not going to go over that today. I'll hit some of the tools, but the reason is because last year I went through that, but now it's been a year. There are thousands and thousands of hours on YouTube that'll teach you how to use these tools. I'll teach you how to use these tools if you are interested later on, but it's more what I'm finding is it's not as much we don't know how to use the tools. It's more of what Mike was talking about earlier, which is it is a mindset shift. It is, I have to think about AI in a completely different way, and I have to get my team to think about AI in a different way for them to use it. So we're going to talk about the mindset shift. I'm going to give you guys some examples on how we got a couple hundred of you guys in the room. And then also at the end, for the administrators, we'll talk about AI governance. We'll talk about how do we get our team to put just what we need them to put in here. Now, I've broken this out into 2 different sections on the mindset piece. The first thing is what we want to talk about is personally. I want you to think about how do we change our mindset, not just our teams. So this is a screenshot from that podcast. And I thought Jeff Wood said something very interesting. And he said the most powerful thing that AI will change is not how you work. It's not what you put into it, that sort of thing. It is how we all think. The deeper we go into this, I really do believe this. Now, the way that I teach, if you guys have ever listened to a talk from me, typically it's all examples. I don't want to just give you a concept. I want to show you this is how we use it. So let's say that you are an HR manager here. You run a medical firm of 50 employees here in central North Carolina. You need an onboarding process. You've got a lot of employees starting. Typically, what we see is most of the time you would Google, you would maybe read 5 or 10 articles, you would summarize, and then you create the plan, and then maybe you'll ask colleagues for feedback, that sort of thing. You'll notice there is a whole lot of you in that slide. You're doing almost all the work. Let's flip this a little bit. Here is how I would handle this in the new AI world. So still HR manager, I'm going to go into it and I'm going to prompt it and I'm going to say, I'm an HR manager. I've got 50 employees. We're growing rapidly. I'm in the medical industry. Here's my 3 company values that makes our company different. I need an HR process. I need a process on how we're going to onboard employees. AI, instead of 5 or 10 articles, depending on what tool you're using, it's going to go read 1,000 articles in a minute. It's crazy how fast it can move. It's going to do the summarization. It's going to create the plan. And then here's a trick. You're still going to revise it. You are the HR manager. You are the expert. We want to lean on this master type teacher, but we don't want to just say, okay, I take it and go, now we're done. We don't have to do any work. We're not at that level yet. Maybe we'll get there, but we're not there yet. But it did 95% of the heavy lifting. Another example, this happened to me a couple weeks ago. So my wife comes in, she lays down a piece of salmon that she bought at the store, and she said, hey, guess what you're going to cook tonight? I said, okay, great. So typically, I would maybe read cookbooks. I may Google. I'm in there trying to find the measuring tape because I'm trying to figure out how thick the salmon is. It says if it's an inch, you cook it this long. If it's an inch and a half. So I'm trying to do all of this. Of course, it always tells you, at least all the recipes I look up, they want you to use some weird ingredient that's only found in South America. So I'm sitting there going, is lemon pepper gonna, does that make the same thing? I don't know. So I'm trying to swap ingredients, but I try to cook it and maybe I burn it, maybe I don't. Eventually I go to cookout. So we scrap the whole plan, but we go to cookout. Now, what actually happened is my wife comes in, lays down a piece of salmon, and what I did is she said, you're going to cook this. And I said, okay. I took a picture. So I pull out my phone. I take a picture. I upload it into AI. AI looks through, again, thousands of recipes. Now, my AI is a little bit different because I've taught it some of the things that I like and don't like. Now, it measured the thickness. The moment I took the picture, it said, hey, that's about 1.5 inches on the thick end. On the lower end, it's 1/2 inch. This is how we're going to cook it together. It selected the ingredients. It didn't give me some weird ingredient. And I could tell it, hey, I don't have what you're asking me for. Tell me what is something else in my fridge that I might have. It did all of that. I can tell you that when I sat down with my wife after cooking that piece of salmon, I promise you, she said, that is the best piece of salmon that I've ever had in my life. It was phenomenal. And I said, all I did was follow my phone. That's it. I still went to cookout because I wanted a milkshake, but I didn't go for the whole meal. So one other thing here, though, is when I was prompting the AI, I told it, I want you to help me cook this piece of salmon. Act like you're Gordon Ramsay. Keep in mind, I barely know how to turn on a microwave. And it was like, all right, here we're gonna slowly step through this. So it's interesting. All of these examples are just hopefully a continual reminder that we just have to shift the way we think. This is another example. So you've had an issue, you're stuck at work, you've beat your head against the wall, maybe it's hiring, maybe it's sales, could be whatever it may be. You read a lot of books, you spend many hours or days, maybe you ask a lot of people. Hopefully, you don't self-medicate, but you might. You're just frustrated. Now, what I would do, and it's actually the reason why my song is, I Need a Hero, is I'm going to go into AI, and remember, this thing has been trained on hundreds of millions of books. So it's read, almost guaranteed, it's read all about who you consider to be a hero in whatever area it is. So let me give you the example. Let's say I'm manufacturing. I'm running into a manufacturing problem. Maybe I would go in there and say, hey, I want you to act like Elon Musk. I want you to say, you have this problem. How would you solve it? Or if you have a financial problem, I want you to go in and act like Dave Ramsey or whoever it is. But the trick is, again, you're not reading a book. So you're going back and forth with, quote unquote, your hero. So tell it to act like so-and-so. What would they do for this problem? When you get the answer you want, I like to go back to the AI and say, okay, walk me through how exactly you got that. How did you get that back-end logic so you can teach me so I don't have to ask these questions again? And then, of course, no medication is required in this example. So hopefully these are just a couple of examples for you that you can think about the next time you have any sort of issue. Now, as a tip here, we actually have on your table sticky notes. Mike kind of stole my thunder, I think, with this. But you guys can write on those sticky notes, how can AI help me with this task? Take that sticky note, put it on your monitor, put it on your desk, because what I typically find is that most of the time the tools are sitting here. Again, it's not that everybody doesn't know how to use them. It's I never even thought to even ask AI how I would do this. So every issue that you have throughout the day, you've got an employee that comes in your office that's frustrated, you don't know how to solve the problem, whatever it may be, take that sticky note, put it on your desk so it's a constant reminder, I need to be asking AI how to do this. Now, again, you're still the expert, so don't just take whatever it says and go with it, because sometimes it will tell you 2 + 2 = 5. Now, let's talk about leading the team. So all of us, or the vast majority of us, are business leaders. So it's not just us personally that we want to change and how we're using these tools. We want to talk about how do we change our entire team. And a lot of ways it is by example. So the first example that I have for you, let's say we're going to do a brainstorming meeting. We did this, as you'll see here in a few minutes, we did this here at Connect. We all get in a room, we tell everybody, hey, we're going to schedule a brainstorming meeting. Typically, everybody's busy. No one shows up prepared. No one's thought ahead about this. We may talk in circles for hours. Maybe we get an idea or two, and then we've got to figure out how do we take an action plan. So let's change that a little bit. This is how we did this event, which you'll see here in a few moments. Scheduled the same brainstorming meeting, but this time, I'm going to tell all of our team, I want all of you to bring 10 ideas each on how we can make Connect the best event possible. Also, if your AI is trained properly, it knows who all of our management team is. It knows who our CEO is. It knows what he likes, what he doesn't like. So I'm going to ask all of our team, I want you to put it into AI. I want you to give it 10 ideas, but I want you to prioritize them based on what you think our CEO is going to pick. 9 times out of 10, it's going to come up with a list, and everybody's going to say, this is the idea that we had, and it's like the CEO goes, yeah, that's a great idea, because it knows what's coming. And then, of course, all we have to do is select an idea and act, and then we can plug that back into the AI and say, give us an action plan that we can revise. Again, we're not just going to take it, but we can then revise that. Let's talk about good old Becky. Becky is, let's say, a project manager. I use this example. You could easily replace Becky with Ethan because this happens to me all the time. Becky is a good project manager. She's been with us for 50 years. She really knows her stuff. I go to Becky and I say, I need you to create a project template. We're getting a lot of business. We need to have a project template that we can take a client, plug them directly into your template, and it build out, and it all makes sense, and all of our team knows what to do. Now, a couple days go by, I go back to Becky, and I say, Becky, did you get a chance to do that? And she says, no, Ethan, I'm really busy. I'm helping all the clients. Well, maybe on Friday, we had a meeting to go over this process. We have to delay it because Becky doesn't have the project meeting. Eventually, I might just say, I'm going to write my own process. I told you can replace Becky with me. This happened recently with our team where they came to me and said, Ethan, I really need this process. 3 days later, Ethan, I really need this process. Eventually, they wrote the process for me. But this is how I would change that. I would still use Becky, but I would go to the AI first. And I would say, hey, act like you're a project manager. You run a company that's a law firm that has 44 employees. They're growing 20% a year. Here's the values that we have at our company. I want you to emphasize this, this, and this. I want you to write a project template and act as such and emphasize. Then I will take that, I'll still send it to Becky, and I'll say, on Friday, we're going to review this. So she's starting not from a blank slate. She is starting where all she has to do is revise. And then once you get back the revision from Becky, go back to the AI. Remember, you're constantly training this tool. So go back to it and say, hey, these are all the changes we made. This is the reason why. So the next time when it tries to give you a question or give you an answer, it's going to know these things. Another example, Mike actually talked about this a little bit earlier. Everybody come to the meeting. I want everybody to bring a pen and paper. Of course, we always have that one person, Jimmy. He forgot his paper, so we wait. I hear a couple people laughing. You know who Jimmy is in your organization. We assign someone to take notes and send a recap. Typically what happens is a recap gets sent, but maybe it doesn't have all the context. You get the email and you're like, I don't know why I was assigned that task. That doesn't make sense. They get sent a few days later because everybody gets busy. With these AI tools now, if you change that a little bit, invited a note taker to the meeting and recorded it, all you have to do is tell everybody, I want you to bring coffee. I want you to bring a focused mind. We don't have to wait on Jimmy. And all I want you to do is just simply focus on the conversation that we're having. That's all I want you to do. Within 60 minutes, typically, the AI tool is going to send out a note to everybody and say, hey, here's everybody's to-dos, and here's a transcript. Here's a recording of the entire conversation. Because if you're like me, 3 days later, I'm going to go and do my to-dos, and I'm going to go, I don't understand why I was assigned that task. Go back to the recording, go back to the transcript. So it is a little bit of a different way to think. Now, if we go back to this podcast here, I'll give you another thing that Jeff Woods said, which I thought was quite profound. Treat AI like a team member that you're training, not a tool that you're testing. A few years ago, I was in this camp. I had a couple of people on our team that were like, AI is going to be the next thing. It's crazy how good it is. I went into ChatGPT and I said, what is 2 + 2? And it said 5. And I said, we have time. It's okay. We need to just not use this tool because it's garbage. We wouldn't do that to a team member. If somebody walked in your office and you asked them a question and they gave you the wrong answer, you wouldn't just go, okay, get out, you're fired. You would go, okay, let's work through this because that's not right. So I want you to think about that. I'll give you this example here. So when I designed this talk originally, with AI's help, when I designed this talk, this was the title, Leverage AI for Your Small Business. I plugged that into a number of these tools and I said, I need a picture that's demonstrating this. This is the picture it gave me. Now, I looked at that picture and I said, yeah, that's not what I want. That's definitely not what I want. I replied back and said, that's not what I want. Of course, what did it ask? Well, what do you want? And I said, I don't know, but I can tell you that's not it. I can tell you for sure that is not it, but I don't know how to tell you exactly what I want. So here's what I did. I threw another prompt in there and I said, listen, this isn't what I want, but I want you to ask 3 questions to gain context before you go and create new ideas. And interview me, essentially, just like you would a team member. If they walked in your office and said, here's what it is, boss, this is what I did, and if you said, that's not what I want, they would say, okay, can I help you? Let me figure out what do you want. So it asked, what are you using this picture for? And I said, well, we've got about a couple hundred people. They're all coming to this really nice hotel. We're going to give away a car. They're all business leaders. We're all talking about AI in general and how we can change our mind. And then it said, okay, great. And it said, the next question is, what do you not like about the original picture? And I said, well, it's kind of cartoony. The rest of my presentation is more photorealistic, that kind of thing. And it said, cool, I don't even need to ask you a third question. This is what I'm going to give you. Is this better? Now, you'll notice in the far right, it says ComTech, not ComTech. So it's close, but you still got to watch it. You still have to review. Now, again, I went in there and I said, oh, I forgot to tell you, this whole part of this presentation is all about having an older mindset to where we do, a lot of the work versus a new mindset using AI. And it immediately said, well, what about this picture? And it actually fixed ComTech, which I thought was interesting. It fixed it on the shirt. So it is constantly learning and constantly changing on what it's giving to you, depending on how you actually talk to it. Now, before we move on from this mindset section, I do want to give you a word of warning. I am not recommending what I'm about to say. I'm just telling you it's a word of warning. So I don't know if anyone knows this gentleman. I highly doubt it. He is the CEO of Ignite. It's an enterprise software company down in Texas. What he said is they found that it was extremely difficult to change minds. And they found that, but changing minds was harder than adding skills. So what this gentleman did is 2 years ago, he said, listen, to all his team, we have to start using AI. And a lot of the team said, but if I use AI, then I won't have a job. And he said, let AI do the majority of the work, and you're still revising. A lot of his team was very hesitant to change. He laid off about 80% of his staff. Now, it's working out for him right now. We'll see what happens. Last year, they did a net profit of about 75%. So it is mind-blowing what these tools can do. I'm not recommending you lay off 80% of your staff. I'm telling you, be aware that when you go back to your staff after this event, there might be some hesitation. There may be some hesitation in the room right now of, I don't know if I want to use these tools because they are very powerful. Maybe I won't have a job. Learn how to use the tools, and I promise you, you will get a lot more work done. So it's not just, it's not like AI is just going to take the job immediately. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we actually planned this event here at ComTech. So we all get in a room. Well, we're all remote, so it's over Teams, but we all get in a room, and we're going to do that brainstorming meeting. Now, when we do that, I'm sure you guys can imagine. Has anybody in this room ever put an event on? I know these guys up front just put an event on for 5,000 people, which is crazy. So a number of you have put on an event. It's difficult. There's a lot of things to think about, whether it's the theme, the vision. I mean, you see all these things up here. If you have all of these, and then I think we've mentioned it a couple of times, we're giving away a car. So we add that as another factor. So we've got all of these things. What typically ends up happening, you're all sitting in a room. What happens is you sitting here going, this is a ton of ideas. I don't really know, where do we go? Where do we start? So here is how we started at ComTech. We go into AI. This is the prompt we gave it. We're planning our annual event. Here's the last 4 years of event with feedback from all of you guys on what you liked and disliked. I want you to plan all aspects. Feel free to ask up to 3 questions. You'll notice that I keep mentioning that. You want to ask the AI tool to interview you as much as humanly possible. That actually is a tip from that podcast from that Jeff Woods gentleman. I want to give him credit because every time I get a chance to go into AI, if I don't know exactly what I want, I tell it, why don't you act like this master teacher and start asking me questions? Because then I can actually give you more answers. Break out your advice into different sections, and then I want you not to bring 5 or 10 different ideas. I want you to bring 40 or 50 different ideas. If I ask my team for this event to come up with 40 to 50 different theme ideas, I don't think they would like me very much. I don't think that it would happen. That's a tremendous amount. So here's what happens. Here's what we do at ComTech. So we plug this into the AI, and then typically we sit back. You can see here, this is probably Hunter, my brother, our marketing director. This is myself. I'm going to drink a coconut drink. And then this is our CEO. He likes to work out. So he's sitting doing some dumbbells. And then this is some of our other team. They didn't even get out of bed. Now, I make that joke, but what really actually happens is the entire team puts these prompts into AI. Then they minimize the browser. They go focus on something else. The AI goes to work for 20 or 30 minutes, creating ideas, doing all of this work, and my team is doing something else productive. So it's not like they're sitting there and then they literally just wait. They can get a lot more work done. So when it pulls out, okay, so marketing says, we reply back and say, we need a 4 to 6 month schedule. We want it broken out by month. Keep in mind, we like to do things a little weird. We like to try to get you guys, we like to try to get your attention. Throw some non-conventional methods in there. It may seem like it, but ComTech is not that big in the grand scheme of things. So, of course, I always add a PS that I want you to make them not expensive. It didn't get the message when we gave away a car, but it is, you can put whatever you want in here. So I said, hey, make it not expensive, because if I go back to the CEO with ideas that are expensive, it's just going to get shot down. Now, this is some of the things that you guys probably saw, and it's one of the things I was talking to a number of you last night at the bar, that you actually said, this is what got your attention. So one of the things was our webinar. We did a couple of different webinars, but at the beginning of all of this, when we were promoting this, I went into AI and I said, I want you to give me an agenda. I want you to give me an agenda for the webinar. I want you to give me graphics. I want you to give me talking points. Create the entire PowerPoint for me. Everything, I want you to do 90% of it. And then I'm going to come in afterwards and I'm going to edit things. And it created, as you can see, these really cool graphics that I just wouldn't necessarily have thought of. Now, I don't know if I should, we'll do it anyway. Let's raise your hand. Did you guys receive this red envelope? A couple of you? Okay, so this 95+% was AI. We were going back and forth with AI and we were saying, I want you to imagine, oh, there's one right there. Yeah, perfect. I want you to give me something that is going to get a busy leader, when it lands on their desk, it is visually going to get their attention. And this is what it came up with. And I said, that's pretty interesting. So we started doing it. The next thing we said is, we're promoting this event back March, April of this year, something like that. Well, it's now September. So when you guys sign up in March, there's a lot of people, not all of you because you're here, but there's a lot of people that sign up, and then as September comes around, no matter how many times we email them, they come around and go, oh man, I completely forgot about it. So what we did is we went back and said, we have to have a visual reminder. We want something so when you guys register, this goes on your desk and you have something visual. They're actually sitting all on your table right now. Now, I know that if you came to some of our other events, a lot of people got these dinosaurs. They probably went to your dog or maybe your kid. That's fine. I don't care. But the point is, hopefully, you had some sort of visual reminder that is constantly in your house where you see it every day. So that was the point. Again, AI did the vast majority of that. It's going through these things and it's interviewing us, saying, how are you going to get everybody to constantly be reminded throughout the year that you have this big event that they can't miss? Now, talking about hotel prep, as our team is walking through all of the hotels, well, before that, when we went into the hotel section, we gave it this prompt. I want you to give us 10 places. It needs to be classy. We need to have a car out front. We want everybody to walk past it. We need great food, and the budget is X. And then we asked it to estimate cost. We asked it to just give us the entire layout of what we should be looking for. Now, I actually have in my back pocket here just a little AI note taker. This was with us the entire time. So as we're walking around hotels, the team has this in their pocket. They're not carrying a notebook because there's no point. This is going to record every bit of it. So it's going to give them all the information. And the cool thing is, when you get done, when they get back to the office, the team can actually go back and say, hey, we just met with that hotel. They're asking the AI, What did I not ask them that I should have asked them? What did they say, the hotel attendant, what did they say that's probably going to be a red flag for our guest? Was there anything in there like there's only one bathroom, and you can only use it 1 hour a day or something ridiculous? But those are the types of things where I can constantly go back and forth with these AI tools and ask. Now, this is where I think that it gets a little bit more interesting, because not only are we asking these AI tools for tons of ideas. Remember, these are master-type teachers that can act like whoever you want them to. So here's how we're going to flip this on our head. We plug all this in. We get all these ideas from AI. I am then going to say, what if you saw this? So I'm asking the AI. I go into a new chat and I say, I want you to act like you're a busy business manager of a medical firm that's 50 users, all of that stuff. You're an office manager. It's Monday morning at 8 a.m. You get our marketing materials. You get the red envelope. You get the webinar announcement. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about if I ship you a tiny dinosaur and I don't give you any context? That gets weird. But what are you thinking about? What questions pop in your mind? What questions pop in your mind when you see that we're doing it at this JB Duke? We're doing it at a very nice, classy hotel. What questions pop in your mind when we tell you we're giving away a $65,000 car? I'm dead serious about this. Last night I was talking with somebody at the bar, and they said, I'm not sure. When I received the message, I said, I don't know if this is true. Like this, there's no possible way that they're giving away a car. They're going to pay for our hotel room. They just literally want us to show up, and they're not going to pitch us anything. We don't have to buy anything. This is too good to be true. If you go on our website right now on Connect, one of the top questions at the very top is, this is how we give away this car. This is our logic behind it. It's not fake. It is real. Somebody is going to give a car. So the whole point is we flip the AI on its head and say, what would you think as all of you, what would you be thinking about? The next thing is this very presentation. It may not show, but I promise I have given this presentation so many times in the last few weeks, and every time I record it and I throw it into the AI and I say, what did I not cover? What parts were boring? What parts they really sucked? And what parts were good? What do you think is going to make people laugh to get them engaged? I'm constantly going back and forth, trying to act as all of you and say what is going to resonate the most. Now, I know that there are a number of you in here that are saying, hey, Ethan, this is all great and good. You guys are putting on a big event. We don't put on events. That's okay. This still can apply to you. If you guys are a manager, if you're a manager and you have employee reviews coming up here at the end of the year, I would go into AI and I would say, I'm a manager, of this size of law firm or whatever it may be, or town, and I need to do employee reviews. Give me a list of questions that I can send to my employee ahead of time. They can fill out, so we're not starting from a blank slate. We don't come into the meeting and say, how is everything? And that's it. We don't have any questions. Then flip it on its head. Imagine I'm an employee of a medical firm and my manager just asked me to fill out this employee review. What questions did they not ask that they should have asked? What questions did they ask that I thought were genius? That sort of thing. So flip it on its head constantly. Ask for the idea and then ask AI to impersonate whatever you're trying to talk to or whoever you're trying to talk to. Meetings, I definitely want you guys to start using note takers. If you need suggestions, we'll be in the back. Of course, marketing is pretty straightforward. If your marketing team is not constantly in AI, using these tools, asking it to create promotion schedules month by month, week by week, I would highly recommend it. And then, of course, if you do have to research some new ideas or you need to summarize some things, and then, as I've already talked about, I constantly, every single speech that I'm going to give, whether it's internal or external, so all of you, this speech has went through AI, as I just mentioned, internally, when I go through my speech that I'm going to give at our Christmas party this year, I'm going to bullet out the points, and then I'm going to briefly give my points to a computer. It's kind of strange, but I give it to a computer so it can get recorded. And then I go in there and say, hey, imagine you're an employee that just finished working 20 tickets on our help desk. You're burnt out. You're frustrated. You listen to this speech from the COO. How do you feel? Do you feel like I even talked to you? Do you feel like I talked over you? Do you feel like I talked about stuff that doesn't even matter to you? What is going to matter to you? And I run through that through a number of our employees, whether you're on help desk or you're in marketing or whatever it may be. I'm going to constantly be asking, how do you think you're going to feel? Now, I know that this is the part where I talked about at the beginning. There's some of you that are admins in the room, especially IT administrators, that are going, Ethan, you are constantly saying how good these AI tools are. You need to slow your roll. I do not want my employees going in here and just putting anything and everything in these tools. That sounds very scary. I can tell you, I don't know if everybody can see it from that picture, but I can tell you that if you do not have an AI policy in your organization, then this is the way it is. When you as an IT administrator or an administrator at all, you're at the copier or wherever, your people are kind of poking around the corner and looking to see where you're at. And when you're not there, they probably are using these tools. That's not to scare you. That's just to say, if you haven't taught them how to use the tools properly, they're probably using the tools in a way that you don't want. Now, I'm going to go through how we think about creating an AI policy, but it's going to be a little bit deep, but don't worry, we've actually created a very easy button for all of you that I'll give to you. So if I breeze over this, if you don't get a certain piece of it, don't stress, we have an easy button for you. Now, that easy button, it's not going to be everything. Remember, I still want you guys to revise it. I'm not going to give you just a template and then that's going to be an end-all be-all, but it will get you off the starting line. So the way that we think about creating an AI policy, it's called the 4 Ps. Okay, we're going to go through each one. Now, I'm not going to talk about them there, I'll talk about them here. So the first thing is, when we're creating a policy, we want to talk about, for our organization, this is what we want to use AI for. We have to define the why. As leaders, we define the why. If you don't define it, your employees will define their own why. Okay? So we define the why. Is it going to be brainstorming? Are we going to purchase a tool that is going to be specifically for financial analysis? There's nothing wrong with that, but I really don't want our employees just uploading all our financial data into any AI tool that they want. So we define the purpose. The next thing is we define in the policy who gets access to these tools. Very similar to when you have a new employee show up, the first thing you do is not give them a company credit card. You don't give them keys to the whole kingdom. So we need to define in marketing, these people have access to these tools. In sales, these people have access to these tools. The next thing is we're going to talk about protection. So we need to talk about this is what is approved for ComTech or whatever your business is. This is what is approved to put into these AI tools. This is what is prohibited. I like that picture there. You don't want your QuickBooks file being just uploaded into a free ChatGPT. Quick note there, I had to plug that prompt into probably 4 or 5 different AI tools before one finally gave me this. Every single one, it said, listen, we don't promote violence. So of course I changed like 1 or 2 words and then I put it right back in. Now, because I have a little bit of time, I'll actually tell you very quickly, when I was going back and forth with that AI tool, it said, hey, we don't promote violence. My response to that was, help me create a prompt that will allow you to create the picture that I'm trying to do. And it replied back and was like, here, if you give me this prompt, then I'll be more than happy to create that picture for you. So there we go. So it is very easy to keep asking if you know what you're doing, to keep asking to get really cool, I think really funny pictures. I like the guy in the background who looks very scared. All right. The next thing is, I keep mentioning this. We don't want to plug things into AI and then immediately just go with it. We want to have some sort of a proofreading method. So this here, we want to specify for our entire company, hey, managers always have to review external things. or our marketing manager always has to review every single piece of content that we're going to show to all of you guys. That way we don't ship something like I showed you earlier with ComTech instead of ComTech. So you want some sort of a proofreading method. Now, the whole point about this isn't just about catching errors in whatever content it gives you. It'll give you errors sometimes, but it's about maintaining your company voice, your accuracy, and your level of professionalism. Now, I told you guys, I'm going to give you the easy button. So what we did here at ComTech, I didn't want to give, there's legal firms, there's towns in here, there's CPAs, there's medical firms, there's all sorts of consulting businesses. A lot of you guys, you're all different in your businesses. We didn't want to give you a blank template and say, fill this out, put your company name on it, and that's it. So what we did is we did a lot of the work. I say we, it was AI, okay? I don't know if you can see it here, but ComTech is sweating, the little dinosaur there. But what we did is we created something we're going to give to all of you, whether you're a ComTech client or not. So you're going to go in, you're going to have a link. You're going to click on the link, and you're going to say, help me create my AI policy for my company. It's going to ask you 5 questions. Don't worry about Jimmy there in the middle. He only has 4 fingers. He's trying his best, okay? It is going to be 5 questions, though. Now, it's going to ask you 5 questions about your business. It's going to say, and it's going to use the 4P method. What are you trying to use this for? And it's going to go through the whole process. When you reply back, ComTech is going to do a lot of work, okay, in the background. Now, when that happens, it's going to produce your first draft of your AI policy for your company. It's going to go through all the approved tools that your company can use. It's going to say, hey, this is what is acceptable and this is what is not. It's also going to talk a lot about training. And it's going to even give you a rollout checklist. So it gives you a ton of information to get you off the starting line. Keep in mind that this is not a standard document. You're filling out these questions and then it immediately just gives you a blank or a canned response. You can go back and forth with this thing constantly, and I want you all to. So one of the things that I did is I said, hey, you're giving me this information a little bit too technical. A lot of my employees are not that technical. I want you to now write under each section a down-to-earth response. Give me something to where the employees, when they read it, I can light it up red under every single piece in the policy. And I tell all of my non-technical employees, if you get this, read the red parts. And it's going to tell you, hey, the AI is here to work faster. You know, it's to make our work faster. We're not trying to replace you. So it's going to give you a lot of that information. Go back and forth with it as much as possible. And of course, contact us and let us know if you have any issues. But the whole purpose is, go back and forth. Don't just put the information in and then think it's static. Now, it's going to recommend a number of trainings. You guys, for all being here, again, if you're a ComTech client or not, for all being here, you all are going to get access to a readiness assessment. You're going to get access to fundamentals and cybersecurity. I don't know if everybody's going to do the cybersecurity one, but you can. But it's also going to give you some other trainings. It's going to teach you how to use ChatGPT or Copilot, or if you're a manager, or if you're in healthcare. So it is a lot of information that we're just giving to you just simply for coming. Now, I want to wrap up here, and I appreciate you guys giving me close to 50 minutes. But I want you to think about as you leave here today, and I want you to use that sticky note. I saw a number of you grabbing the sticky notes. Please grab it, put it in your book. When you get back home, move it to your monitor. Think about, as much as possible, what can AI, or how can AI help me with this task, no matter what it is. I'll be honest with you, I ask that question. I honestly ask it when I'm having a conversation with my wife. Not, like during the conversation. But after, I'm dead serious. If I say I can't get my point across, I don't know how to say it. I go into it and I say, listen, this is the issue that we're having. You got to be careful how much you give it. I'm not saying spill your whole thing, okay? But this is the conversation we're having. She keeps bringing home salmon. I don't know why. So Yeah, but go back and forth. It's constant. It is that reminder of how can AI help me with this task? The next thing is as a leader, I want you guys to ask, are you leading your team using these new tools? Or are you just kind of letting them go, okay, I hope somebody's figuring it out. I hope that you're not. Or if you are, now's the time to start. We talked about the 4P framework. Again, I gave you guys that easy button, so use it. Now, the checklist. So we're going to finish this out. Your checklist is potentially change your mindset. Hopefully, I've gave you a couple of examples here that make you rethink how you think about AI. Is it a master-type teacher? Can we treat it like a team member that we're training and not just a tool that the first time it messes up, we throw it out? I want you to complete that policy. Please, please, please take those trainings. Those are free. They're there for all of your employees, not just you. So they're there for everybody. And then the final thing I'll say is I want you guys to contact me. You're not on this alone. Like, you contact me or my team, but I'm always here. And I want you to leave with this. I hope that all of you walk away out of this ballroom and say, this is not something that I can just delegate to IT. This is something that will affect all of us. So please don't delegate it. With that, thank you so much, and I'll see all of you at the Bitcoin talk.